Hey, the Scotch Test Dummies. We got us our top 5 bourbons for beginners. Bart's eating some snacks.
I got an oat cake in.
Cleansing the palate.
From Scotland.
Let's test it.
Test it! Top 5 style.
All right, we had this one on our slate to do for a while. Everybody's got it posted now.
Yeah, we
took
talked
too long.
about it 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So now it looks like we're copying. We don't care because we're going to do it unique and different.
You're going to get the Scotch Test Dummy style.
We're going to get our version, baby. Get a little version. So this is top 5 bourbons for beginners.
I'll start.
Okay, do it. I got
Number
mine.
5. And I've got, it was an empty bottle I had at home because it's so good. For $25, you can find Buffalo Trace Bourbon. Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey.
Okay. Now, why your number 5?
Really, just what a bourbon is. It brings the cinnamon, it brings the vanilla, it brings the oak. A lot of the same notes we're going to find in ours. But for the $25 range, it's available everywhere. It's a great starter. Do it.
All right. I don't have my bottle for this one because I thought I had the regular bullet, but I don't see it. And the bullet 10, I see the bullet rye over there, but that won't help.
Oh, the bullet 10.
Yeah, the bullet 10, so you're going to see a regular bullet. The bullet 10 is a 10-year, right? Isn't it? Flavorful. You get the oak in there, you get the sweetness, and I think it's a little bit more refined entry-level point for the 10, but it's a good place for a beginner, I believe, because it gives you a little bit more complexity than just the regular bullet. You're going to have a lot of people that would be like, yeah, I had the bullet, it's good. And it's both subtle with the bourbon strength at the same time. And I think that's why Bullet 10 is a great starter bourbon for somebody.
Eagle Rare, 10-year-old.
Nice call.
Now, Eagle Rare, this one benefits if you let it sit for a bit. The old sit for a bit.
Which means open it up, try a little sip.
If you open it and pour a glass, let it sit for a good 15, 20 minutes before you try it. After you've had a couple of drinks out of it, let it sit for a month or two and then go back to it. This is one that oxidizes a little bit. A lot of people have had the same experience with it. It's a little bit different after a couple of months of getting some air. So, but Eagle Rare, and this is a 10-year-old as well. You had the Bullet 10, and it's just on the back label with the Eagle Rare, aged 10 years. This is bottled at 45%.
Very affordable.
$35.
Yeah, $35.
Yeah.
Good bourbon. My number 4, some people are going to balk at. They're going to say it's not a bourbon, but you know it fits all the same rules. The Jack Daniel's, what we call double barrel.
This is for beginners, right?
It is. But this is why I'm going to explain why this is on my list for beginners. See, okay, you're calling foul, but I'm going to tell you why.
Calling foul.
That's good. I figured you would pounce on this one. First, let me explain that Jack Daniel's fits all the United States rules for bourbon. Here's why I say this is a good entry. It is a little bit more expensive. $49.99, I believe.
$70.
No. Is that your main criticism, that it's so expensive?
And it's barrel proof.
It is barrel proof, but here is the trick. My wife is not a whiskey fan. Not at all. I poured some of this for myself, and she literally said, wow, that smells really good. So I tell her, you take your first little sip. I'm almost wanting to move this up on the list as I'm explaining this stuff. She does it and goes, ooh, I do get banana. She was amazed. It was the first time she got some of the notes that are subtle. And she was like, this is something I could drink. This might be a bit of a bold stance.
You got some valid points in there.
That's why it's on there.
There is no way I would put a $70 barrel proof bourbon in my bourbons for beginners.
For a beginner.
Maybe you should, if you were going to err boldly, you should just down number 7.
You go. With your safe Knob Creek.
Knob Creek single barrel. Or no, not even the single barrel, just the Knob Creek small batch.
Knob Creek would have been crazy.
The Knob Creek small batch at 100 proof. This is a $35 bottle.
Very affordable.
Great bourbon notes, a little bit higher proof than what we've seen on my Buffalo Trace and the Eagle Rare at 45%.
I actually had a bottle of Narb. So I agree with you. It's perfect. It's a good quality bourbon. Did you ever share some with your wife?
You want me to leave this up there for your number 3?
No, for my number 3, please pull up what you call the handle. It's a half gallon.
Not the 46.
Not the 46.
Not the cask strength.
Not the cask strength, which prior to our blind 16-bottle bourbon shootout. It's a wheated bourbon, which means it's got still the 51% corn, but its other primary grain in there, it's heavily wheated. And it made it soft and subtle and delicate. And for a lot of the bourbons we were trying, sweet. And then this subtle strength of America, and it feels like America. It's red dipped wax, boom, they jam it in there. Extremely affordable. And this rose and it shined a beacon, and it seemed like the transverse of a lot of the other bourbons we were trying, and that's why it's number 3 on my list.
Elijah Craig, small batch, 94 proof. And that did real well in the bourbon shootout as well. And this is just a really good, it's gone from a 12-year age statement to an NAS. We did the 12-year a while back. And I remember it was okay. It was average, I felt. You do a lot of these and you think, man, it's kind of average, whatever. You put it in the blind shootout and it excels. This was one that when matched up against some of the others, even the current, not the 12-year-old Elijah Craig, but the current non-age statement, the one that's supposedly 8 to 9 years old, really shone when you went in there blind with it against 15 other bourbons. Great bourbon notes, the cinnamon, the caramels, the oak, the vanilla.
You have not seen my list. I'm going to join in now with you because my number 2 is also this Elijah Craig. This, to me, is bourbon. It is the oak. It's the caramel. It's the vanilla. It's the strength. It's like Americana. It was this compared to the makers where I felt like they were two sides of the coin. And the flavors here are amazing. Yeah,
my number 1, Bart already hit on. Leave them all up there. Leave them all up there.
Okay.
Maker's Mark. Now, we reviewed this individually.
This is your number 1.
This is my number 1. We reviewed this individually, and I thought, it's okay, it's average, nothing special. I don't know what everybody thinks is so great about it.
Right.
We put it into the blind shootout.
Shown.
Now, we did 4 brackets of 4. And in the 4th bracket, these two were up against each other. And we both went back and forth tasting. Which one do we like? This one? Do we like this one? Which way are we going? I settled on the Maker's Mark.
And I was
you
glad
settled.
You did.
Yeah. And you settled on, you take the Elijah Craig in bracket 4 and it moves to our championship.
Yes.
In our championship, I choose the Maker's Mark, you choose the Elijah Craig. These two are just great examples of what bourbon should, of a corn with some rye in it and a wheated bourbon. There's 2 things I learned in that bourbon shootout that come to beginners. Okay. One is you don't have to hunt for great bourbons.
Nope.
They're on the shelf right in front of you.
Right.
And the second thing is don't pay exorbitant prices for secondary market.
And they're put out in quantity, and they are high quality. I love it. Let me sip this too. Hold on.
Yeah, let me try yours.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. This feels like the softer transverse of this.
Yep.
And
it is a little spicier.
It is.
Very rich.
And I love rye. I'm a big rye. So when there's some rye in the mash bill, I tend to gravitate toward it. Now, we haven't gotten to my number 1 yet. I'm going to get there in a second. But it's worth talking about. Everything Scott said here is, yes, you don't, if you want to go out and search rare bourbons and find stuff that's high, expensive, I would never buy stuff at a crazy price on the secondary market. Great bourbons are available to you for $35.
They're on, and you can go into any store, any liquor store,
Pick it
and
up.
you can find these 2 bourbons right
And
here.
you're going to be doing great.
Yep.
Now,
$25.
completely.
I know what you're
You
doing.
know it is. It's in the family. I'm doing it. That's what I'm doing because it's part of the whole. I've knitted together a tapestry. Okay. This is the Elijah Craig Barrel Proof. It's 68%. But I want to explain why I've got this on for beginners.
Yeah, please do.
I have this on because this is what kind of first stood out for me with bourbons. When we first had this, I tasted it, and it was, I literally, both of us went, wow. And
You keep saying that.
I know,
don't think
but
it means what you think it means.
which part? Explosion?
The saliva in your mouth.
Sure it does.
That was a movie quote.
Oh, I didn't know. And when you change it and watch it move and shift and let it water down and then come back to it neat and then just a couple spoonfuls of water or maybe a drop of water, this is whiskey that you can play with. You can literally play around with it and maybe even find where your sweet spot is. Prior to the bottle of Wow, the Elijah Craig Barrel Proof, I was mediocre on bourbons. It like kicked the doors open. It blew them open with dynamite saying, I'm bourbon and here I stand. But just know that this bottle of Wow brings a full experience with it. And that is why it's on my list as number one. I debated not putting it on there because I know it's a little harder to find. I know it's a little expensive. I know it's super, super strong.
So you decided to put it in the list for beginners anyway.
You just heard why. And I think it's valid. I think it's valid.
I don't think it's for beginners. I mean, you know, you brought it in here. Like you said, it's hard to find, it's expensive, and it's barrel proof.
I put those.
Is it a damn good whiskey, a damn good bourbon? Yes. Is it among my favorites? Yes.
Did you say bung?
Is it for beginners? Yeah, I don't know.
But
Maybe.
See, this is what made me go, wow.
Yeah.
This is bourbon to me, and it stayed bourbon to me. All right.
But no, you can go into
trilogy,
any liquor store though. You can find these two right here. You can find Eagle Rare. You can find Buffalo Trace. You can find Knob Creek.
Yours
It's a great place to start.
Right, you're right, and we do agree on several. I'm just saying, as you go down the path, bottle of Wow. All right, now we got to do our catchphrase. Scotch it, you Scotch gods.
Cilantro, dummies.